A tango, a tango.
She's doing a lot of work on, the indigenous Black people and how Black people have actually been indigenous to the United States and how that was written out. And so I think it's important for us to get the whole narrative and all the different facets along with this field of divine intelligence that's manifested in the 3D. I think it's important. And last but not least, Harriet Tubman had dreams and visions. She received guidance telling her where to go and when to go out, when to not go out. And it was a part of her normal reality. We got to get back to seeing this not as stories, but as our reality.
You sleep in the bed with both your shoes.
Greetings. Good morning. I am Monique. Welcome to Forget Everything You Think You Know, a podcast where we discuss the new possibilities for what it means to be a Black person who is in America or in the West. My intention with this podcast has been to really help us understand that the old ways of being are dying out rapidly. The ways of competition and comparing and war and giving other people power and not holding our personal authority, those ways are dying, and they're dying with the age of Pisces. And Pisces was this age where we really experienced, the advancement of religions and where we experienced just in the last 2,000 years, technological advances. We experienced a great deal of human suffering just with like the American slave trade, or what happened to the Jewish people in Europe, just what happened in African countries, this sort of war that was about dominating other human beings. And that is ending. We are moving into an age of innovation and renaissance and expansion and love and possibilities. And it doesn't mean that those other things won't be there, but we're starting to realize that other stuff is not the way to behave. We're starting to see clearly that, it's not cool to enslave people. It's not cool to make people be less than or categorize them because of their skin or their gender. All of that stuff is becoming outdated. And in the next, several years, we'll see that those things become like passe. Like people will be looked down upon for thinking that way and behaving those ways. So with this Pisces new moon that we are in, this window is giving us the opportunity to really let these energies die inside of us. That's Pisces. Things come to die in Pisces. Things come to end. It's the final house in our zodiac. It's where everything exists. So we get to look at how we have participated in these experiences. We all have on some level, either consciously or unconsciously. Pisces governs the subconscious. So it's the ways we participate. So I remember when I was young, I was given a belief that women came from the rib of a man because of Christianity. That was the belief that I was given, and it felt real to me. So I subjugated myself to men because I felt like I am lesser than them. That's the age of Pisces, that those sort of where we take other people's power. And so when I realized that, I started doing the work to change my mindset around that, to understand the value of the feminine and the contributions that the feminine brings to the world and to families and communities. And I realized that that's something that we don't talk about a lot. We're starting to now, but I had to retrain my own mind. And so as we are moving out of the age of Pisces and into the age of Aquarius, we all get to look at the ways that we have been indoctrinated and conditioned into behaviors that no longer work for us, behaviors that diminish our individuality, diminish our unique gifts and talents, behaviors that would have us subjugate ourselves or others, behaviors that would also have us really forget our divinity, our natural divine power. And so with that, I am so excited for this episode and this new moon in Pisces. I really want you all to open your hearts, because my guest, Joel, is he's not going to like that I said this probably, but it's like he's an ascendant master already on earth. he's working on it. He is, but this is the age of Aquarius, that we get to embody our natural gifts and superpowers. And I am so excited to have Joel be with us, because he is a living example of that. And he's going to offer us such wisdom and love to help us see what else is possible. So welcome, Joel.
Thank you for having me, Monique. Glad to be here.
Oh, it's so my pleasure. Would you please say your last name, because it's the way you say it is so beautiful, and I don't do it the justice that you do. So please do.
Yeah. So my last name is Adifon, and it comes from Benin, West Africa. And my dad actually told me the story behind it, and it was I think his great paternal, grandfather, who basically said he founded a village, and that name means, out of all of my brothers, this little one will rise up and become the strongest. So Adifon. So
that is powerful.
Yeah.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
what a great energy you carry with you.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, what's your astrology?
Yeah, so I am a Pisces sun, born on my father's 33rd birthday, February 25th. Mm-hmm. I am a Sagittarius moon, and I am a Virgo rising. And I also have a Aquarius stellium in my 6th house with Mars, Venus, and Saturn. And I'm having my return go exact twice this year. And it's going to go exact also next year as well. So.
Wow. So your Saturn's return. So you really are becoming a new person right now.
Absolutely.
How do you feel? How do you feel?
I feel good. So on the 31st, I got strong guidance to get off social media and basically go deep into my cave and only allow certain people to have access. So I've just been working on myself, taking myself to the next level, and really asking myself, what does it mean for me to be in integrity with my highest expression in the world? What does it mean for me to truly align with my heart desire and the reason why I took on human form? And that's what I've been working with.
That is really powerful, because you have Aquarius in the 6th house. And I am teaching a class right now that I want you to come and be a guest teacher in as well. We'll talk about that. But it's this Aquarius energy is about scrutinizing our ways of being, because Aquarius is the foreign, it's the alien. So to have it in the 6th house, it means that you really do have to find integrity with the service that you're doing in the world, right? Because the 6th house is our daily routines, our work. And the thing that people I feel like people miss a little bit about the 6th house and this service energy is we think that it's about being of service to others. But you can't do for others what you haven't first done for yourself. So the 6th house is truly about you really understanding yourself, nurturing yourself, making sure that your health and everything is in alignment. So by the time you get to another, you are grounded, you are secure in yourself, you know who you are, you know what your medicine is, so that you really, the 6th house is the house of the healer. And that's truly who you are. So thank you for sharing that. So how is this internal process going for you? How are you feeling on a daily basis?
Before I answer that, I want to speak to, because you just dropped some knowledge and I can't bypass that. So basically, when you were talking about how we often have service with an overemphasis on outward focus with the detriment of actually serving ourselves, to be able to serve, that brings up a point that someone in one of my groups actually said yesterday. Shout out to Thomas Edwards. Like, he's an amazing brother. And he basically said that we can't be a superhero for others without being a superhero for ourselves, or being our own superhero. And so for me, I'll give you an example. Right before the retrograde, or maybe slightly after, I launched this new offering called Miraculous. And I was really excited about it, and I was really excited to put it out. It's going to be me teaching on building superhero faith. And in this time of being alone and, being in my cave and, going over things as Mercury retrograde often has us do, I received a strong guidance. Actually, the frequency of Miraculous was not for you to do this for others. It's really indicative of the next level of demonstration and being and doing that you want to have in your life. Like, I want to be the kind of, superhero, or, what I'm calling a miraculist, someone who demonstrates miraculous phenomena, that I would want to call people in my life and say, oh my God, I found this dude. He's doing this thing. He's being in the world a certain way. And when I looked at that, I said, you know what? I'm canceling this for right now. And I'm putting and redirecting all of my focus on taking myself to the next level. So for me, really the energy of this time and how it's affected me specifically has been really asking myself and asking my heart, what is it I really want? What am I apologizing for? What am I watering down? What am I to make others feel comfortable, to really not rock the boat. And surprisingly enough, I had an encounter with Michael Jackson like this during this time. I actually connected. I actually consider him one of my guides, and I'm also inspired by Kobe. And when I look at the greats, one of the things that the greats have is an obsession with greatness that they don't apologize for. Michael Jackson is seen and arguably by so many people, and I agree with this, as the greatest performer of all time. Kobe Bryant is in the conversation for being the greatest basketball player of all time. And people reach that point with something that has been watered down in the spiritual community, which is a desire for greatness, an obsession for greatness, which we often confuse and conflate with distorted ego. And that is something that I've really had to look at recently, is like, wow, I have this desire in me to be among the greatest and most documented wonder workers of all time, to be the greatest and most documented wonder worker of all time. And when I had that, come up in my heart, I asked Jeshua, I was like, wait a minute, is this okay for me to have this? Like, is this something that is, I should be careful of? And he said, reminded me of this verse, one of my favorite Bible verses, which is John 14:12, which, in most Bibles, it's translated as, whoever believes in me will not only do the works, meaning miracles that I did, but greater ones than these. When actually, if you go to the Aramaic, and shout out to Neil Douglas quotes, it actually is saying, whoever believes like me, whoever holds the faith that I hold, whoever, trusts as I do, will not only do the works, the miracles, the signs that I'm doing, that I have done, but greater ones than these. And how many times has, because we have seen the fundamentalism, because we have seen the abuse of, dogmatic Christianity, people love the social justice aspect, of Jeshua. People love even some of the wisdom and the Gospel of Thomas and the esoteric stuff. But to me, why I'm so drawn and have been as a little kid to the miraculous is because it's the demonstration of divinity in the 3D. If it doesn't affect the 3D, then for me, I don't really want it, because we're here to be incarnate. We're here to be informed, and we're here to interact on this level, in this plane. And change can only come, transformation can only come if it is demonstrated and embodied. So.
Thank you so much for that. That is really powerful. And that is why I have you here, because I have watched you over the years be devoted to your spirituality, devoted to the ascended masters, Joshua. And how do you say it? Jeshua?
Jeshua, yeah.
Jeshua.
So the J didn't exist. This is a
Yeah.
fun fact. So the J didn't exist until, like I think like the 1400s. It was discovered by an Italian. So that's why people said Yeshua. But for me, since we don't call it John Jan, I just say Jeshua. So yeah,
That's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a devotion I see in you. Like, I have this thing that I notice. I notice people who really have a love for God, and it's a unique thing. I think that we all kind of connect because God is everywhere. But then there are people who, when they were children, like I was a child who really wanted God. Like I was 3 years old praying. I was, 6 years old, like fasting, right? That's like, I was that kind of child. And to me, that's a unique thing that I see. And I meet adults now who are that way, and you are one of them. And what I discovered is that this is the real power that allows us to transform. And so I wanted you to talk today about what it means to be a superhero, and how can we as African Americans, like how can we begin to do the work to transmute these stories, these experiences that have been so profoundly oppressive and death driven? Like, how can we transmute that? And I think that you have something that we could use, that you are doing something that is valuable. So I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, thank you. For me, being a superhero is basically summed up in being aligned with what I call infinite imagination, God, and the limitless, boundless power, spirit, in such a way that reality uplifts me and overflows to uplift others. And I think one very important step is that we need to reclaim our history. We need to become curious about the miraculous in and through Black bodies. I actually was talking about this with a friend of mine who had reached out. She asked me to help with a situation that had caught her attention. She's an activist, and she was feeling really drawn to make a difference in the situation. She was like, Joelle, it just feels like the system is this big, giant thing. And I know, she's also a student of my teacher, Ron Young, who is a Black healer who's doing high level work with people who have stage 3 and stage 4 cancer. And she was like, look, I know that this miracle consciousness, this miracle reality is possible. But at the same time, I feel like I don't want to be a spiritual bypasser. I don't want to be like some people that are just like, oh, you create your own reality, but don't have the power behind those words, don't have the demonstration. And so I find myself, when I'm faced with some of these situations where innocent, Black men and Black people are having these situations happen, I go into, a collapse. I go into this place of hopelessness. And what I told her was what I will tell, anyone who's listening, is we need to understand that miracle reality, it exists in Black bodies in every tradition. For example, I was raised Catholic. I still pull a lot from that field. And someone that people should look up in English, Saint Benedict the Moor, in Italian, San Benedetto il Moro. He's the patron saint of Black people. And his feast day, funnily enough, is on April 4th. The day that MLK, was shot, was taken from us, right? And San Benedetto il Moro had, if you read a lot of his life, he was this high-level monk. His body is actually incorrupt right now in Sicily. And you have these white, kings and royalties from all over Europe traveling to go see this Black monk. Why? Because the level of phenomena that he produced in his life, the miraculous healings. He's credited actually after his passing with having raised people from the dead and also in life. He held a certain reality, and these things are documented. So that's one thing that I would suggest. Another thing is the Black Madonna. The Black Madonna has, it's a form of, Mother Mary, but it not only has Mother Mary in the field, we also have the divine feminine and all of the different regions that pops up, and also the cosmic mother, the mother of creation, the dark womb, all of these different things that are encoded in the Black Madonna, also connections to Isis, connection to all these different aspects and emanations of the mother that have appeared in different cultures and that have also merged with the field of Mother Mary. There's an amazing miracle that has been highly documented called the Miracle of Kalanda, in which this guy had his leg cut off because there was gangrene that formed. And in those days, what happened is they actually buried the leg because they believed that the leg was necessary for the resurrection on the last day. So they needed to bury it. And so what ended up happening is this guy took oil from a lamp and put it on his stump for 2 years. And then on the 2 years later, he had a dream that Mother Mary came to him and put his leg back on, and he woke up with a new leg. Now, a lot of people are like, Joel, I don't know about this. This feels like some bullshit, like whatever. But the documentation in Catholicism, one thing I will credit the Catholic Church and these kinds of institutions with is the thoroughness of the documentation. And back then, when something like this happened, people had to swear under oath. And the psychological torture of believing that, well, if I broke this oath and lied, I would be condemned to hellfire, really had people under its sway. And so you have doctors testifying that, yes, I operated him. Yes, he had a new leg. You had the King of Spain coming to kiss this guy's leg when he saw the miracle. So it was like a big deal. Mm-hmm. So the Black Madonna, another one is the Black Christ. Mm-hmm. So in Peru, Lima, Peru, there was a painting made called El Señor de los Milagros, the Lord of Miracles, which I have a really, really strong connection and devotion to, because basically it was a painting painted by an Angolan slave or an Angolan captive. And he basically made this miraculous painting of Jeshua. And that painting, look up the history, survived earthquakes, all of these different things. And there was a lot of healings attributed to it. Now, for me, when I went to go see the shoes of this Hindu guru named Amma Karunamai, not the hugging saint, but a different Amma, when they came to New York City in, I think 2018 or 2019, I asked her to help me integrate this Christ consciousness with also, some of the ancestral stuff that was coming through. And I was walking out on the street and I saw this parade going by, and there was incense, there was like drumming, there was noise and music. And I was like, what is this? And I saw someone with a San Martin de Porres, which I also look up San Martin de Porres, very patron of biracial and mixed race people, another brother who was levitating, bilocating, healing animals, all that stuff. But I saw someone wearing a lapel of San Martin de Porres. And when I went and asked what it was, they said, oh, El Señor de los Milagros. And I was like, wow. And then I looked up this whole Black Christ connection, and she had answered my prayer. She'd answered my request by connecting me with a Black Christ that was integrating in this whole field and integrating everything. And right after that is when Jeshua said, I want you to know me as the Lord of Miracles and to tell people about me as the Lord of Miracles. That's when I found out about the Miracle of Kalanda, which is funny because I've been looking for years to find a documented miracle of leg, amputee regeneration. And there it was. So that is another thing, but that's only in Catholicism. Then we have in our history that Frederick Douglass, a lot of people don't know this, but when he was in the process of wanting to overthrow his captor, right, he actually went to see a hoodoo guy and had an herb that he kept in, I think it might have been St. John the Conqueror, but don't quote me on that. But he had that in his pocket, and it gave him the strength to basically beat down his captor and escape. Mm-hmm. And so in familiarizing ourselves with all these different instances of how people in Black bodies have drawn from this strength and demonstrated this strength, when we begin to overcome the narrative and the programming in our minds of less than, of you're stuck in 3D reality, of only through grinding can you overcome. No, there is that same power is available to not only to Black people of all origins, but especially Black people of origins that are American based. And another person I want to shout out and recommend, I don't know if you know Tayana Mecular, but she's doing a lot of work with, she did the Hoodoo Tarot and a lot of things like that. She's doing a lot of work on, the indigenous Black people and how Black people have actually been indigenous to the United States and how that was written out. And so I think it's important for us to get the whole narrative and all the different facets along with this field of divine intelligence that's manifested in the 3D. I think it's important. And last but not least, Harriet Tubman had dreams and visions. She received guidance telling her where to go and when to go out, when to not go out. And it was a part of her normal reality. We got to get back to seeing this not as stories, but as our reality.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much for that. All of that is so moving because I can feel the energy changing on the planet. And it's so not only is it important for us to do the work to remember and understand the stories and the stuff that I hear you talking about, but it's also important to understand that the universe is supporting us in this. Mm-hmm. This is a co-creative experience. And so I hear you talk about the Ascended Masters and Yeshua told you, and you spoke to tell me, how can you do this? Help people understand what your practices are so that we can normalize these practices so that we can live them.
Totally. So, from a young age, I was raised in a family that did just that, normalize this. And I had, spiritual experiences, mystical experiences, told my family, told my parents, and they just were like, yes, absolutely. And then treated it normally. So I think first and foremost, it's important to normalize that. Well, how do we do that? First and foremost, read the stories, get the documentation so that the human personality mind can say, okay, I accept this. Because to a lot of people, there is a desire in the heart to believe or to trust or to have faith. But a lot of times we've been taught that faith is blind and that faith is just blind acceptance. That's not faith. Faith is actually the ability to perceive with other tools that are not based solely in the nervous system, that extend beyond the nervous system, to actually perceive what is invisible to the untrained and to the uninitiated. So in order to begin the journey of building faith, the mind is important. The renewal of the mind, start gathering the evidence. Then the second thing is without this, the other part doesn't really move forward, is experience. And that experience comes in deep meditation, which is different from what a lot of people know as mindfulness. The kind of meditation that my teacher taught me is the ability to enter into the living creative universe. So the ability to enter deep into the heart and then to actually use the human instrument to come and go into creation. And that, I think, is foundational. If you want someone that I've worked with, check out Ron Young, but any teacher that will point you to that and will teach you how to open up to the reality, the experiential reality of the divine, of the universe as love, and as this power that is grounding you to the earth and that is opening you to heaven and that is taking you internal. That is the foundation of everything, because without that, when people don't really have the tools to respond in a situation, there's situations where learning how to respond differently, respond from a different place in consciousness is so important. I'll have clients come to me and say, hey, look, I got stage 3, stage 4 cancer. I have tumors. I have this, I have that, And if I'm responding from merely my limited human perspective, I'm going to respond a certain way. I may get sucked into the story of anxiety, which is very important for us to realize. We are living in a world right now where we are bombarded with images of, even the George Floyd stuff, even all, rest in peace, all of this stuff that we get bombarded with, that charges our nervous system and gets us to respond to this reality thinking that it's not malleable. But when we have this internal life, when we have this internal reality and we get in contact with the reality, the law that the one that is in us is stronger than the reality, that exists in the world, in the system, right? That's where we are able to generate the momentum to actually then, respond differently in a way that brings a different world. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very important. It's not to say we need to necessarily disconnect from this reality, but we need to prioritize the inner space, right? We need to prioritize that so it becomes solid, so that we have the internal evidence to then be able to look at a situation and do our part. Each of us has a role to play. Each of us is a different hero. Each of us has a different set of abilities and a different set of superpowers that is, summoned by universal mind for this moment.
My goodness, you have said so much. And so like you, I really feel the energy of the universe within me. And I love the miraculous. I love it. It makes me so happy. Oh my God. It's like, because it's real. It's so real. And when you talk about the experience, I understand what you're talking about. And I want you to share, like, how practical is it for people to really be able to change their lives from living in this 3D reality like it's fixed and into a reality that is born out of their internal understanding of themselves and the divine? Like because I feel like people don't even want that. Like they don't even, like, it's like people don't, like, I'm like, there's magic here. There's miracles here. My niece was over the other day and she says she's allergic to cats. And I was like, well, not because I healed my allergies or Spirit healed my allergies. Spirit told me.
Both did.
Right.
Both
Exactly.
did. Yeah.
Right. And so I was like, so come and I will do a ritual with you and we can fix this. And she came and she was here for hours and she never had, like, she started to do a little bit of sneezing and I just said, okay, let's work with that. Let's breathe. And I put some lavender on her feet and I rubbed her a little bit and just saw her as whole and perfect. And it literally went away. It stopped. And when she left, she called the next day and she said, Monique, I never had another sneeze or cough, nothing. It was gone. And I was like, yes. And that was it. Like, I don't think about it too much. I just know what's possible. So how do we get people to want to know, like, I have something going on in my body. I don't have to accept this, like I can heal this. How do you get people to make the shift in their minds that there's another possibility?
So I think something that you said in the beginning, which is a message that I've heard during this cave time that I've been in, is, being the example. Mm-hmm. And I believe that this is honestly contagious, in the best possible way, right? That when people see what's possible, when we are living, not just in a metaphysical, miraculous sense in what, like a miraculous healing, but also using this field or working with this field to have success and abundance in every area of our lives. I think that's really what I've been after, is allowing this devotion that I have to the miraculous to actually produce a lot of fruit so that people are like, man, I want this. And I got some projects that I'm cooking up with that, but that's definitely, I think, a way, because this reality, for those of us who have been raised in the Western world without any real example, it really, in many ways, can feel hurtful when someone's like, yeah, like miracles. And it's like, miracles. Look at, I got bills to pay. I had so-and-so that died of, like, apparent COVID. I had, all the things that we're facing, in our time, especially as astrologers, the trends that we've been seeing in the collective and all of that. I think when people see it, and when people see it from people they love and trust, then that prompts it's like a provocation, because it's like the people who come into my life, I tell them, look, if you want to hold on to your reality, you probably don't want to be friends with me, because you'll start seeing some weird stuff, getting to know me. And I think we got to live our lives in that way, where we know that we're a billboard for what's possible, that when people come into our field, they have no choice but to forget everything they think they know. So,
ooh, come on now. I remember once I was dating this gentleman who was really successful and in the world, like an attorney out in the world, like really big time successful. And he said to me one day, he said, if I start spending too much time with you, you're going to change my world in a way that I don't want to have happen. He had a Pisces moon, and he was living in the 3D reality and living like in this confined way. And he just wasn't willing. He didn't want that. He didn't want the thing you're talking about. And so we let it go. I said, okay, great. And he was like, don't send me any books. And I totally respected it, though, because it is a choice point. When people align themselves with folks like us who carry this belief, and not just a belief, a knowing, a frequency of the miraculous, it does transform others. And when I'm with people, and I have other friends who live like you and I'm not the only one, because we have to roll in flocks, otherwise, or alone, right? We either roll alone or with people like us. At least I do. And what I've seen is, it becomes really challenging for me to listen to conversations that are rooted in victimization, that are rooted in this idea that somebody can do something to harm or any of that, because I understand the power of my intuition. I understand that I can have conversations with people telepathically, and I understand that I can create solutions out of the invisible. And so I need to do that. That's why I work with clients, because I'm supporting them in that. But in my regular life with friends and people that I'm spending time with, it does shift them. And there is a responsibility, is what I'll say. There's a responsibility. There is also a humility, like and when I say humility, I mean like understanding that it's not just about me, that everyone is here, right? So if I'm with somebody who doesn't believe, I'm aware of, like, I don't want to give too much medicine. I want to allow people to be where they are. I don't want to pull people along faster than what feels right for them. And sometimes, because there are times I have to really watch my own ego in this reality, because I know I see what's false. I see it. And then sometimes my intention, I want to attack it. I want to, and spirits, it's not for you to do that. Relax. You don't have to touch everything. It's not all for you. So how do you manage that? How do you manage knowing what you know, being like coming from a family that said, yes, miracles are real, and then being with people who don't believe it at all, or being in a world where it's completely shunned? How do you manage that for yourself?
I think it's a journey that I'm honestly still on, is learning how to be comfortable with the full spectrum of my humanity, because we've had this, polarity, this binary between human and divine. And what I've been learning more and more in my life is to see them as two ends of a spectrum that flow into each other. And so there's times where I'm chilling, watching my anime, talking on the phone, just hanging out, and I can do that. Absolutely. And I've become more comfortable doing that. And at the same time, at any given moment, I can also allow spirit to show up. And so learning how to read the rhythms, learning how to be and to flow with that has really helped me. And also another thing has been, what you talked about, really understanding where people are and really asking myself, am I ready for the implications of what happens if I show someone like what it is that flows through me? I remember a while ago, like a few years ago, I used to, anytime someone posted, hey, you know, I'm sick or I'm having this, I would like, you know, slide in the DMs. Hey, you know, hey, you want a healing? You know what I mean? Like, and now I'm just like, is there a movement?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a genuine movement of spirit? Or is this me just wanting to direct energy and invest time and focus into something that really should be going into taking myself to the next level? And so when I do that, I think that helps me find peace. So.
Thank you for that. That's really beautiful. That's maturity, I think, you know. And to me, the beautiful thing about being in the West is that we can really access so much information. The hard part is the unlearning. It's unlearning. It's starting to cultivate belief. I feel like that has been the change, the transformation that's been offered to me. How do I begin to cultivate? So you were born into this. You've been doing this all your life. On some level, I was born in it too. Like my grandmother's from Louisiana. I grew up in a family where it was like my grandmother gave me herbs and, you know, would do little, what I would call little sweet magic tricks. Like if I couldn't find something, she would say, okay, go get a drinking glass and turn it over. And that will capture the energy of what it is you're looking for. And without fail, whatever it is, it's like she would just she would just bring it. She would pull the energy in and it would show up, right? So I grew up in a family where that was normal, like you did. But then I also forgot it, like I stopped using it. And I'm coming because I went out into the world and I became a teenage girl and I realized that wasn't cool. It wasn't cool to be talking about crystals or herbs or how I could heal myself or my grandmother's medicine. It wasn't cool. And so I think I'm wondering how do you, what's my question here? Oh, okay, great. So how is it, like, how does the magic live inside of you as a, you know, in your childlike energy? And I think I want to know like how to live with it and have it be free and fun, and because it's really a sweetness to this. This is not like painful or hard. Like, yes, if we're talking about healing disease, that can be, but it's light. It's like, oh my God, did you see? Like, God is so good. Everything is so beautiful. It's that, like, there's so much freedom in it. So I just want to hear your understanding of that. It's like, to me, that's the greatest invitation of the joyfulness of it.
I think everything you just said, if I could, you know, just touch on it, it feels like the inner child. Mm-hmm. We have been taught, and especially, okay, so I feel this coming through and I feel like somebody needs to hear this. Having and expressing and being devoted to your inner child is not a privilege that exists only for, you know, people in non-Black bodies. It is a right. It is a right to express, to cherish, and to be devoted to your inner little one. Because what I heard in what you were saying was this: you've given a space for your inner little one to lead. And that's something that even growing up in this, you know, even though my thresholds for what's possible may have, you know, had a head start compared to most, I still had to learn. I still am learning how to give space to my inner little one. And one of our mutual friends, Jerome brags, you know, big brother to me, like, you know, friend to you, like all of this. He just embodies this. Yeah. There's a ferocity that he has towards giving space to the inner little one. And we need to do that because too often Black people have been the caretakers of everybody else's inner child. And yet, in many ways, the harshness, especially I'm talking to Black people that were born in the States and that come from the States, there was this message that was given unconsciously that the world was not safe for Black childhood. And that is something that we cannot tolerate as Black people, that we need to, in every way, dissolve, disintegrate that egregore construct thought form. It has no place on this planet. Because I believe if we, and I know honestly, that if we have space for our inner child, and this whole conversation is almost redundant because children do these things naturally. Yes. Children do these things just naturally. They have these thoughts of, oh, I can affect reality. Oh, I was doing this and the person in the commercial responded. And we kind of look at that as a phase instead of saying, wow, they're actually onto the truth. Now, how do we help them actually focus it and mold it and shape it and harness that? And funny story. So right as 2020 started, I had a visitation from Peter Pan in my room. And did I tell you the story already?
No, you haven't. You have not.
Okay. So Peter Pan basically was like, go and look at when you were born. We have a connection. And I went and looked, did some digging, and lo and behold, Peter Llewellyn Davies, the guy who inspired J.M. Barrie to write the story of Peter Pan, was born on February 25th. And the day that I actually had a visitation from Michael Jackson in 2015, I had no idea at the time, was actually the anniversary of his passing. And so that to me indicated, along with looking at certain aspects of my chart, my 5th house North Node in Capricorn has really shown me that I'm here to be a fierce advocate for my own inner childhood, for outer children, and for the inner childhood of everybody. That is the key to magic. It's the key to the miraculous. And Jeshua, says many times, unless you become like a little child, you will not inherit the reign of God. And that is the key. That's the key.
That is the most powerful thing ever. It's the heart of a child, that openness, that lightness, that freedom that is available. And I'll tell you, as a 52-year-old woman, I have to be intentional to access that, right? Especially I have to be intentional to allow that play and freedom. And I do it. And the magic the miraculous continues to meet me because I will be with my inner child. And it's kind of interesting because my son right now is 14 and he has Saturn in Leo, and I can feel his heaviness coming. I can feel it coming. And I'm like, okay, how am I going to run some interference in this with him? And I'm working on it, and I'm going to, but I really appreciate that, Joelle. Would you please tell our audience where they can find you? I know that no one can find you right now, possibly because you are taking care of yourself, but when it's time, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, just Joel Adifon, my name. You can find me on my website, joeladifon.com. And those are pretty much the best ways to keep in touch with me and see what I'm up to. Thank
you so much. I am always deeply moved by you. I love you. I really love you.
Thank you.
I always remind you of this, but the first time we had a conversation, you reminded me that that suffering didn't have to be the way of it, because I believe that. And being a Black American woman, that was a part of my coding. And I want you to know that that was a miraculous offering that you gave me, that I accepted it, and it changed my life. It healed me. And that's why I will always call you one of my teachers. And you're in your Saturn's return now?
Yep.
So you're 29 years old, right?
About to turn almost. Yeah, February 25th, I'll be 29. Yeah. Right.
And you are my teacher. You are my teacher. Thank you very much for the wisdom, for your devotion and your consistency with the message that you offer. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else that you would want to say to our listening audience before we leave?
Yeah, just wherever you are, whatever is going on, I just want you to take a minute to center yourself, connect to your heart. Just receive this transmission. Great anything and everything, God and spirit, infinite imagination, limitless, boundless power. Thank you for this person listening right now. Whatever situation they're going through, whatever circumstances they find themselves in, whatever obstacles, take them into that space if they are open. Take them into that space where they come in contact with the knowing that anything is possible. Not the concept, not the pretense, but the reality. Bring people into their lives that embody this and that support them in having this. And I speak to bodies, I speak to minds, I speak to all aspects of their being. Be whole, be well, be free. Amen. Amen. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you. That was amazing. I encourage you all to go and spend some time with Joel when he is available. His work is life-changing. He's already doing powerful things in the world, and I'm so excited to be a witness and a student and a friend. So thank you so much. Everyone have a beautiful Pisces new moon. Set intentions to open up to the possibilities of magic and your gifts and what is unseen, because Pisces governs the subconscious. So everything that you are is already within you. And if you trust that and believe that, it will reveal itself to you in miraculous ways. Peace and blessings. I am Monique, also known as the Moon Mama. Forget everything you think you know. Bye-bye.
You sleep in the bed with both your shoes. We listen to jazz in the living room. The feeling we know but don't surrender to. Trying to remember